I
Hi,
don't watch them
it's
anymore.
it's Paula, and this is the Common Book Show, and I'm here today with Richard and Nessa and my son Tom on drums, and it's pretty nasty out, so I guess that's why we don't have any other people here. Um, I am reading Plutarch's Lives. This is part one, and it is really I bought it. I think I asked Greg for this for my birthday one year, part one and part two, because I thought, oh, this is interesting. I'll read this. Just like the Caesars, and I'd read the Caesars. But this is interesting because he takes somebody from Greek culture and he takes the person who did some similar things in the Roman culture, and he contrasts and compares them. And I thought, it's really interesting. Well, I got to this guy, and this is how I think you pronounce his name. It's Lycurgus. And Lycurgus was the lawgiver. He went all over the world and he picked out the best parts of the laws as he saw it. He was a very wise and kind and peace-loving man, even though he was the lawgiver for Sparta. And Spartans were not so much a warlike people as they were a people who could defend themselves, and nobody would mess with them because they were strong and they were disciplined and they were a mighty people. Well, when he came back with the laws, now I'm hoping this isn't too dense to understand, because I found it interesting, and because it's socialism basically is what he's contrived to do. It says, after the creation of the 30 senators, and that was part of his law process. There was going to be a guy on the top, like a king, but there was also going to be these senators who would have like a democratic process. His next task, and indeed the most hazardous he ever undertook, was the making a new division of their lands. For there was an extreme inequality amongst them, and their state was overloaded with a multitude of indigent and necessitous persons, while its whole wealth had centered upon a very few. To the end, therefore, that he might expel from the state arrogance and envy, luxury and crime, and those yet more inveterate diseases of want and superfluity, he obtained of them to renounce their properties and to consent to a new division of the land, and that they should live altogether on equal footing. Merit to their only road to eminence. Merit was their only road to eminence, and the disgrace of evil, the credit of worthy acts, their one measure of difference between man and man. Upon their consent to these proposals, proceeding at once to put them into execution, he divided the country of Laconia in general into 30,000 equal shares, and the part attached to the city of Sparta into 9,000. These he distributed among the Spartans, as he did the others to the country citizens. Some authorities say that he made but 6,000 lots for the citizens of Sparta, and that King Polydorus added 3,000 more. Others say that Polydorus doubled the number Lycurgus had made, which, according to them, was but 4,500. A lot was so much as to yield 1 year with another about 70 bushels of grain for the master and the family, and 12 for his wife, with a suitable portion of oil and wine. And this he thought sufficient to keep their bodies in good health and strength. Superfluities they were better without. It is reported that as he returned from the journey shortly after the division of the lands and harvest time, the ground newly reaped, seeing the stacks all standing equal and alike, he smiled and said to those about him, "Methinks all Laconia looks like one family estate, just divided among a number of brothers." I just found that pretty interesting, considering how we think of socialism and communism as a new kind of idea, when in fact he gleaned this idea from one of the ancient civilizations that he had gone to visit to make the laws for. Now, see, it's hard for me because a lot of the stuff like Laconia.
Mm-hmm.
I think Laconia is the larger area, and that Sparta is part of, because the Lacedaemonians are Spartans. I had to look that up because I was getting confused. So the Lacedaemonians were Spartans, and I guess there's other other peoples within that group. But I loved this idea. I thought, how cool is this? This guy, and the people did it. You know, it's not just that he came up with this notion. The people gladly listened to him and did it. Don't you think that's fascinating?
Yes.
Okay, as you can see, I haven't gotten very far because it's hard to read. I can read about 4 pages or 6 pages a night, and then I'm off. I don't know why I'm reading it. It's interesting. It's source material, but then he starts talking about Herodotus. So I pulled out I got a copy of Herodotus's histories, and I'm reading that like in the evening before we watch TV. I have that so I'm going to have a lot of information. Unfortunately, I have no memory. If I had a memory, I'd be very dangerous because I would be able to compile all this information and make something of it. But no. I read
So you're
it.
like an Atari 2600. You have no memory.
Right. What I do is I find it, I'm fascinated by it, and then I go on to the next part of the book, and it doesn't disappear completely, but I just have I have a very poor memory. I could have never been an academic, you know, but it's fun to learn these things, if not for just a moment. You know? Well, what are you going to do? So that was my addition to the show today. What's on your list?
Tom, can you put up the cartoon I put in the Facebook Messenger? There's one of the guy and the dog, and then there's one of that's a cartoon. Really?
It's not there.
Oh no!
No, it's there on mine.
You must have just put it in there.
I put it in there at 7:16.
The black, like Metallica. Ooh.
Technical difficulties.
It's the part where the audience goes away.
Now, well, this is technical difficulties. Hey, is that your necklace? Is that is that rhinestones or is it pearls or what is it?
It's rhinestones.
I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so Tom's not.
How about going to another topic while he tries to figure that out?
Yeah, can we go to the oh, is this the one?
There it is.
Vanessa sent me this cartoon.
Can't really see it all. I see it on the screen, but it's all cut up.
Yeah, did you crop some of it there, Tom?
Okay, get a job, go to work.
Get married, get a mortgage.
Get a mortgage. Is this freedom? Is this living? Watch
TV.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting cartoon, and I'll tell you why. I've been sharing that with people.
Uh-huh.
And one person wrote back and said, "You just described my life."
That is the life that we're told from the time we're children that we are, our parents tell us this because our parents more or less lived that life. So our parents, right, they tell us through their example that this is what we do. And
I sort of wasn't because I come from such a weird dysfunctional background, but I get what you're saying.
well, and the thing is, for me, because my background was so weird and dysfunctional, I came to a lot of realizations at a very young age, because I looked at the example in my life of my mother and my stepfather, my sisters and their husbands, and I thought, this is not for me.
Same here.
Yeah, but I was just listening to this 6-part lecture that I want to send to you, Richard, because I think you'll like it. It's Bertrand Russell, and it was a BBC 6-part series that they played on the radio, and he talks about that. He talks about the expectations, and that there are people that fit into that framework, but there are, he said, exceptional people, and it's not so much that they're smarter or better, but they think differently. The way they think is at odds with society, and that those people should be given an avenue to go down instead of trying to fit a square block into a round hole. I'll send you that series. It was easy to listen to. It was just a listening thing. It was not it was just a radio broadcast.
So what was your point with bringing the cartoon up?
I wanted to ask you and Vanessa, number one, do you agree that that is a viable option how to live a life?
I
I guess it could be, but it's
what
pretty stock.
capitalism wants us to do.
Some people might like it. I don't know.
That's the life that capitalism, I mean, aside from people like, what's his name? That's Trump's best friend now. We were just talking about. Yeah. What's that?
Musk? Elon
Yes,
Musk?
Musk. Yeah, Musk has figured out a way around it. But that's what capitalism wants you to do, because you have to get that job so you can earn money and you can buy those things that are being advertised that you need. You need all these things.
And you also need to have children so they have future taxable base and they have future soldiers for future wars.
Yeah, and the mortgage is another thing that's
Nothing to hang over you.
feeding into the economy and making you beholden money-wise. So everything you do, I mean, there's been rock songs. I can't think of the one,
Antisocial?
No, the thing.
That's a good song from the 70s.
Like the Talking Heads. This is not my beautiful house. This is
Right.
not my
Once in a
beautiful
lifetime.
wife.
Nice quote.
And so, but all of those things make us prisoners of capitalism.
Right.
And once you're a prisoner of capitalism, it's hard to get out. I think it can lead to despair and suicide. I would like somebody to do a study about how many people get themselves into those situations, and then maybe when the smoke starts to clear and they're in their 40s and they're having their midlife crisis, and they say, "Holy shit, I did not want this. This is not
Or
what I wanted."
conversely,
Yeah.
they live a slow death.
Yeah.
Instead of a quick suicide, it's a slow death.
What was the most people live lives of quiet desperation,
Oh, right.
and it's there, but I'm not saying that it's all bad. I think there's a point. Yes, you do have to work, but you're working for your needs, not for not for the things that you're being advertised you need, for the real needs. You need to. It's good to be able to live indoors and to eat healthy food, and to have warm clothing in the cold weather, and to to be able to do certain things that you enjoy. But is it really necessary to have, I mean, I can't tell you how many times Temu, which is that Chinese app.
Yeah. Have you bought anything off there? I'm almost scared to. It all looks good, but I bet it's garbage.
Well, I must say, my daughter buys clothes for the kids because the kids, I like for holidays and stuff. They're not. It's not awful, but it's not quality. But then again, you go to Macy's now and you touch the fabric. Everything's made of plastic.
Whenever I go to Macy's, I've always had a good experience, actually.
Yeah, they're the new fabric options are all made of microplastics, and they're terrible for the.
Like what? Other than like you have your nylon and your polyester, which are all plastic based, but what else are you talking about?
These new, really soft, fluffy things that you touch, they're all made of plastic, and they're you know what? And I threw something in the washing machine, and it completely. I got red fuzz everywhere on everything I own. There's red fuzz. It was a gift that I had gotten, and it's because it's just deteriorating in the washing machine. It's like I don't. Anyway, Temu. You know what? The stuff isn't horrible, but I don't recommend unless you really need
I
something.
think you should probably buy one of those fake fur jackets from there, right? I don't think so. They have a lot of them that look really tempting, but I have a feeling that they're probably.
Well, if you tell me your size,
not too good.
I will find one for you, and you won't even have to shop. I'm a
XL.
Okay, I will find you something like. Do you have a particular color you had in mind?
Oh, I like pink, but I wouldn't mind like a leopard spot.
I will
jacket.
find you one. Yeah. Wait, it might not be for this cold weather season, but I'll find one. I promise. I'm always coming across stuff like that. But yeah. So, what do you feel, Richard? Do you feel that's? But I know you don't think that's a good idea.
Well, I'm going to read a quote from you, and then I'll answer your question.
Okay.
I mean, a quote to you, not from you.
Okay.
Okay. It's from Jack Kerouac.
Okay.
All right. The only people for me are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, the ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, 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 like fabulous Roman candles exploding like spiders among the stars. If you meet one of those people, okay, and you happen to live the life in that cartoon, is there a part of you that's a little envious?
I think that the people who resent free spirits, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
They resent them because they don't want to have to believe that they could have made another decision. They don't want to have to think that hard. You know, I lived this way because it was the right way. And I had a coworker when I worked at where the heck did I work? When I worked for Vesset, I had women coworkers, and at the time I was not married. I was in a relationship with Neil, and we did a lot of fun things together because we were both kind of adventurous. We used to go whitewater rafting and all this stuff. And the women at work disliked me intensely because I didn't have...
You represented the path they didn't take.
Right. So, and I just got used to it. I used to, because I was support staff at the time, I'd come in and I'd put my headset on and I'd start typing. And I wouldn't pay any attention to anybody around me. I just did my job. And one day, I came in, and the girl that sat next to me, she was really friendly. And she said, "Oh, hi, Paula. What did you do this weekend?" And I thought, wow, I'm thinking, she must have done something really fun she wants to tell me about, right? So I told her, and it just so happened to be the weekend that I went whitewater rafting, and we ended up camping in a cornfield. And it was just a bizarre experience that I had, and it was very fun to talk about. And I said, "Why, Debbie, what did you do?" And she looked at me, and she said, "I stayed home like decent people." And I said, I'm sorry to hear that. And I put my headset back on. But she waited. She figured that out over the weekend that she was going to do that to me, you know. And it's like why? Like you could have done something fun instead of figuring out how to hurt my feelings, which it didn't even hurt my feelings because I knew where it was coming from. But that is how those people feel about free spirits. They don't, especially women. I mean, a man can kind of get away with it. A man can get away with it because, you know, like, oh, he's a real player, that one over there. You know? You know, he's got girlfriends all the time. You know, let that be a woman, tramp. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's just the way it goes.
Did you see the movie Easy Rider?
I have, but like we talked about earlier, my memory is poor. So go ahead.
Oh, it's a great movie.
These two motorcyclists, you know, they're traveling the country and they've got this free spirit about them, et cetera. And they pick up a hitchhiker, Jack Nicholson, and they're sitting around at a campfire and the two motorcyclists say, you know, it seems like a lot of these country people really hate us. And Jack Nicholson says, they don't hate you. They hate what you represent. What's that? Freedom.
Yeah, because it is a choice, you know, but people don't, we've been taught by the power structure in capitalism that making those choices makes us lazy and not good, makes us bad people, you know, and that's how the rich keep getting us to do their dirty work for them by telling us that, first of all, it's a virtue to be hardworking. It's a virtue to be loyal to your employer. It's a virtue to want to do the best, you know, work you can.
It's like the Steely Dan lyric in Dirty Work. I'm a fool to do your dirty work.
Yeah, but that's
that applies to this.
Yes, that's the thing, because all the things that are virtuous are in place to make money for people already have money. You know, if you are somebody who likes to, you know, once in a while, like take a sick day without being sick, you know, it's a mental health day. You know, I mean, really think about how much drudgery most people go through on their jobs. To take one day off to go fishing is not an act of it's not a bad thing to do, but society makes it seem bad. Oh, you're lazy. You're lazy. You're not doing. You know, you want to be in nature. You want to slow down for a day. You want to get some fresh air. No, that's bad. You're stealing time from your employer.
Vanessa, if you were in Paula's situation where that woman said, I did the decent thing, what would be your comeback?
I'd laugh in her face.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's what I'd do.
I just said, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, what was I supposed to say? Yeah, I mean, I was very... The women at that job were so mean to me that I almost stopped working for the state. And I knew working for the state was a good thing for me, because if I'm going to be single all my life, I'm going to need a pension, because I'm not going to have retirement or good retirement. So I knew that working for the state was a good choice for me, because I had to do a job like that anyway. But I was ready to quit until Myron, who was one of the people that I was a typist for, he was moving to another section. And once I got into there, and I knew I would have to do his work. I knew it, because he was very disorganized. And I liked Myron a lot, but he was very disorganized. So I went with him, and I'm so glad I did, because the hierarchy in that position was, they appreciated the fact that I had different talents. They let me do things that were out of my classification that were interesting for me. but there would have been no way that could have happened. I taught them all how to use their computer when I got there, and they gave me a bad review.
But you helped them.
Right, but that didn't count. That didn't count. So, but yeah, so that's, I am against anything that turns a human being into a slave.
Good rule of thumb.
Yeah, I wish people, and I think the young people now, I think the people who are, everybody's complaining about the people, like they don't have a work ethic. Well, guess what? They have a life ethic.
Why should they have a work ethic when there's no future? There's no good jobs. There's no jobs with pensions. There's no security. They can't even buy a house. Why would they want to work?
Right, but it's not even that. It's so much that they know that in order to have a good life, you have to have a good work-life balance. People work. Sometimes people work 10, 12 hours a day when they're when they're in management, and they have to do that. And if they don't, they're looked down upon by the people that manage them. I mean, that is not healthy. It's not a good thing to do. But the younger people seem to understand that. They seem to understand they need free time to be who they are, and they need a work ethic that's not, their environment that's not repressive.
Oh, they're going to get one, though.
Yeah, but
next couple of years.
Oh God, I don't want to think about that. We got a couple days before we have to think about that. But Nessa? What have you been reading? Anything new?
Oh, I was reading this thing called The Secret History of Marvel Comics, and it's about the early days of the publisher and how they were originally into pulp magazines with a lot of sexual and violent themes and stuff, and how the comic book empire grew out of this.
Really?
That a lot of people don't know. Yeah.
So those true mystery magazines?
True crime things.
Crimes,
and
yeah.
Yeah. Those magazines from the 30s.
Yeah. I remember even in the 60s there were true romance and true crime.
Oh,
and,
yeah. That stuff.
Those would all be on the same rack as the comic books on the side. So,
yeah, a lot of times it was the same publisher under different names. They had a lot of shell corporations within each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, so that was a book you were reading, or was it something online?
It's a book. It's a book.
Did you get your books from the library mostly, or?
I still have a lot that I bought that I still haven't read. I tended to like to go to Barnes & Noble or Borders, if any of that stuff even exists anymore.
Barnes & Noble does.
I used to like to go at 10 at night on a Sunday when they were open late and go there and just look at books and read them there, and then things would grab me and I'd have to buy them.
Yeah. I get a lot of books at thrift stores. Savers is great for books.
Oh, yes. Thrift stores, I would get books there, too.
Yeah, Savers is great. They've got a big selection, and they have a special selection for weirdo books like Plutarch's Lives. They have a whole, esoteric kind of histories and and literature and stuff like that. So that's where I go. But it's and you know what I'm listening to, besides reading these two histories, I'm listening to Alice in Wonderland. It's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
Do you see it as symbolic?
Well, I would say I can see how a story like that would have been really enchanting to a young child. Apparently, he wrote it for her, and all of the nonsense and silliness that's in there. But what I started to do was I listened to it up to a certain point, and then I watched on YouTube. I watched that piece of the Disney cartoon to see how they presented it, as opposed to how it was written, and that was kind of interesting. They did, of course, everything was watered down, but they changed things.
Was it a cartoon?
Yeah, it was the cartoon version, the Disney cartoon version. They've got it in separate parts on YouTube. So it's a fun little study to look at them, look at both things, the actual written word, the reading. And it's really not, I think there's a whole bunch of these things on YouTube where somebody reads a book, but they read it in a bedtime story voice.
Mm.
So they're reading it basically as a bedtime story. So it's really calming and really delightful to listen to. So there's also a bunch of people that whisper. Did you hear about, know about the
Oh, yeah,
whisperers?
yeah. I turned Julia onto that,
Yeah,
and she couldn't get enough of it.
yeah.
Next time I went over to see her, she had like 20 different YouTube videos of people who do whispering.
Yeah. Yeah, the whispering is interesting, but I just like the soft tone that this woman is using to read this story because it is like a bedtime story. So I'm enjoying that. It's like it clears my head from all this other stuff. I wish. Do you ever think that there'll be time travel?
No.
You don't think it's possible?
Well, I'm basing that on what I know now.
Yeah. I mean, because with quantum theory, they talk about how everything's really happening at the same time,
Yeah.
which is kind of baffling to me. But,
Yeah.
where would you go? Do you have any interest in being any place in
Future or past?
In the past.
Well, from a historical perspective, certainly to find out what really happened. That would be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how
Get
would...
the crucifixion,
Yeah, exactly.
if it happened.
Yeah, you could tell myth from reality.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that's interesting about this book is he brings myth into it, but he also cites all these historians that their works have disappeared that make the argument for what it really was. So you get the myth part, and then you get the reality part, and it's interesting. But I guess I'd have to go back as a man because as a woman I wouldn't have access to the kinds of things I'd want to see. Like, I want to go follow, Socrates around. I heard he smelled bad, but I don't care. Or be present for that stuff. Just maybe even as being invisible and but just being present. It would be so interesting. I would love that, but like you say, I don't think it's ever going to be possible, at least with what we know now.
Well, a couple hours ago, a friend of mine, 55 years we've been friends, he was over here, and he said he didn't know he was doing this, but he was quoting St. Augustine, and he said, the past is gone. And the future doesn't exist yet. He said, all that we know is what we're living here right now. And the way, and I would embellish that, and I would say to him, the past is gone except for our memories, and those are tainted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they change. They're not. If and with a friend from 55 years ago, you could test that theory. You could talk about something that happened like 40 years ago that was important to you, and see how he remembers it. Because even with my essays on my childhood, my friend Mary Lou, who figures very largely into these stories, she doesn't remember it the same way. So I put in one of the books, if you don't remember it the way I'm telling it, I said, I can't tell it any other way because it's how I remember it, and then write your own damn book. But these are probably not important things to these people. Each one of us remembers the things that are important to us.
Vanessa, how confident are you that your memories are 100% accurate?
I'm not.
Yeah, well,
Definitely not.
That's just it. I mean, and there's things I've been told that I did that I don't, I almost have a memory, but I couldn't have a memory because I was too young. So,
When do you think you first started to have sentience and memories? Around what age?
well, the first thing that I remember clearly, what, is I must have been in kindergarten or first grade, and my mother told me that my uncle had died, and I wasn't close with my uncle, but I remember specifically thinking, what am I supposed to do when somebody tells me that somebody is dead? And what I came up with is I'm supposed to cry.
Mm.
And so I told my mother, because I didn't really feel like crying because I didn't really know him that well. I said, can I wait till I get home to cry? Because I don't want to cry in front of my friends. And my mother never questioned that. She says, yeah, sure. But that's, I
I
think,
have spotty memories, but going back to, I think, even before I was 1 year old, but they're very spotty, but there's a
Wow.
few there. But my memory got really vivid when I was like 4 years old after my father gave me LSD.
wow.
And then I could remember everything from being 4 years old on after that incident.
Yeah, my mother didn't use, she used kaopectate sometimes, but not that. But I remember drinking beer. Like if there was beer on the floor, I would sneak up and drink the beer. But yeah, that was really, they gave it to you or you took it?
Yeah, my father was really into drugs and he was a Satanist and he had these like acid rock bands and they used to practice at the house. And one day when he was watching me when my mother was out with her friend, gave me acid. He gave me acid a couple times and I used to trip to records and like see things. And that's when I knew I wanted to be a record producer.
You really,
when I was 4.
that you could have, I mean, because it would have been an overdose. I mean, for a small body like that, it could have been an overdose. And
A lot of people say that it's bad, but I think it might have actually been good because it opens your third eye. Like when I went to school, I was always resistant to the programming and knew the bullshit they were trying to indoctrinate us with. The first day of kindergarten, I got in trouble because they told a story about the angels in heaven rebelling against God. And basically, I said, how come Lucifer is bad if Lucifer wants to be like God, if God is good? How is that bad? And the teacher couldn't answer it. All the kids went crazy, and they got the priest involved. And he dragged me out in the hallway and told me to never ask anything like that again. Then I knew what was up, so then I put on the act that they wanted. But the priest later got his revenge on me in 6th grade when he beat me up in the church.
Oh, God. I had a lot of questions. You went to Catholic school, I'm assuming. Yeah, I had lots of questions like that. Like, I remember, I think it was 2nd grade, the nuns told us that only Catholics go to heaven. And I said, no, that's not. I said, that's not true because I know a Jewish girl, because my sister lived in North Buffalo with her husband. I said, I know her, and she's very nice, and God would not keep her out of heaven because she's nice. And they said, no, though, she'll go to limbo. And I said, no, she's not going to limbo. She's going to heaven.
I love all the weird places they invent, like limbo and purgatory.
They put me in the corner for the rest of the day. What are you going to do? You're not supposed to question. Those are the weird kids that they try to beat into shape.
It didn't work.
No, it didn't work. But anyway, so Richard, what else do you have on your list? I know you've got
the International People Photography Awards came out this week.
Okay.
And there's like this formula. You could see it in every single entry.
Okay.
Namely, I'm going to take your picture.
Yeah.
Tell me, where should we take it? See the environment?
Yeah.
So, like if somebody in China who runs their business on their bicycle, and they cram all these things, on their bike, and then they travel. They want to have their bike in the picture. You see what I mean? So I found this one photo that I thought was fascinating. As to what this person said is, to the photographer, this is where I want the picture taken. This is what I want in the picture.
All right, so they're not just taken on the street. They're not.
No.
These
no.
are posed
Right.
photographs.
Yeah. That's what
I
makes
hate
them.
posed photos.
That's
That's what I always hated about those Art Voice pictures and the what has happened. They're always so super fake and posed and not. I always liked spontaneous capture the moment photography.
Yeah, but
of, like, real
that was
things.
part of the idea behind this award was post. Okay, let's.
Right.
Are you going to show us
Was
some? I'm
was
hoping.
Yeah.
Was it for posed photos? The
Well,
award?
I want to show you one of the finalists.
Okay.
And you could tell from the photo what's important in this guy's life.
Okay.
Okay. Take it away, Tom. He's got his dog in there.
Pitbull.
He's got his physique. And he's got his wardrobe.
Well,
Right.
and
He's thugging.
he's on the bed, so
Yeah.
his sexuality is playing in here too.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely
And
sexuality.
the car on
That
the
was
back.
my
And look at
first.
the car in the picture back
Oh
there,
yeah,
too.
there's a car too. I wonder if
And
that's
bed, he probably likes. It's probably he likes to have sex, probably.
that dog is. I mean, that thing with the dog is pretty cute.
Yeah, that's a nice dog.
That you gotta give him that, But this guy works on
It's a
his.
good posed picture, though. That actually
Yeah.
has some composition to it and some thought to it, at least.
Yeah, you're right though, Richard. Every single thing that is important to this guy is in this picture.
You could tell he kind of pumped himself up before the photo was taken. Like,
And just the
not
way he-
yet, not yet, not yet. Okay, go ahead, take it.
He's got the way he has his arms and holding the dog. Yeah. It's well. The thing is, Richard, do you know how much time that takes to get your body to look like that? You are in the gym all the time.
Yeah.
This is a compulsion. You don't. It's just like somebody studying to be a doctor. They're cramming everything in their brain, but these people are they're body people. I mean, I'm okay. I don't know if I've ever met anyone that's woman or man who has a physique like that, who had anything interesting to say.
Because they spent all their time
Yeah.
pumping iron.
Yeah, it would, and I'd like to meet somebody has both.
Yeah.
But and it's just like, and the same thing with women who are remarkably beautiful from a young age, and men who are really beautiful from a young age. They don't have to develop anything else. They're getting their way all the time just by being attractive like that. And what's funny is I always thought my cousin Johnny was very handsome. And I think a lot of women found him very handsome too. But I think he must have gone through an awkward stage in high school because he is an exception. He's a really handsome guy who is interesting. He reads and he does music and he's got all these things going for him. But for the most part, if you start off being attractive, you don't have to do anything else. It's just the way our society's based.
I don't know if I completely agree with that. There's exceptions, I think.
No,
I think people.
There are exceptions. There are exceptions. There are people who are, but I think that
Well,
they,
Gloria Steinem.
right, but I don't think she did not have the
Hell, even Marilyn Monroe, she was very intelligent, read a lot, very smart person.
Che
People didn't know that.
Guevara.
but
Yeah.
but I don't think that they viewed themselves as I don't think they had that image of themselves in their head. Like I don't think when Marilyn Monroe was what was her name?
Norma Jean.
Norma Jean,
Yeah.
that she believed that she was exceptional in any way until somebody found her and they explained it to her. I think that she didn't have that initial. I don't know. She was beautiful then too, but she just didn't get that kind of attention or something. I don't know. But I don't know. I just find beautiful people wear me out because I find I find them difficult because, first of all, I like to look at beautiful people. Beautiful people are fun to look at, you know, and they're. I guess maybe I don't listen. I can't. And maybe I can't listen and look at the same time.
Oh.
Maybe it's my fault.
So I would like to ask both of you, if your friend was a photographer and said, "I'd like to photograph you so I can submit it to this competition," what would you say? Like, what environment would want to be photographed in, and what would you put in the photo?
I would fill a room with books. And I would be in the middle, somehow completely covered except for my face. And then maybe I'd have my grandchildren sitting around the periphery with a book open, which would be out of character for them. But, you know.
What about you, Vanessa?
Well, I'd probably want the venue to be the Kilauea volcano on the big island of Hawaii, and I would have to have a vintage analog synthesizer there with me.
Ah, now there's a juxtaposition, if I ever heard one. Where would you plug it in? It'd have
Generator.
to be battery powered. How
A
about
generator. They have them all over the place there.
yeah? How about you, Richard? What would you want?
Well, I would want a totally black background because I would say to the photographer that my interior landscape is what gives my life meaning. See?
Yeah, yeah, and
You have it right here. You got a black background.
but
Exactly.
you know what?
No accident.
I feel that way about bumper stickers and T-shirts with messages on them. I don't want to advertise my belief system to strangers. You know, that is that's. I mean, I love looking at bumper stickers. I love to I get real close so I can read them because you know so much about the person in their car when you read those bumper stickers. And the same thing with the T-shirt. No, if it's got a message, you know that person. You don't have to guess who they voted for.
Or a red hat.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, for that, in that sense, I can see wanting to keep the privacy of your mind. But so no props.
No.
So you would want to be that because then people would just imagine that you're mysterious. And that's okay? Is that okay?
And what you're doing is you're bringing up something that matters a lot to me, and that's the relationship between photography and text. So on the Buffalo News, every day they have a photo of the day. Equally interesting to me is not only the photo, but the text that they write underneath the photo.
So you'd want text on the photo.
If the photographer would be allowed to do that, that might break the rules of the...
All right, if it doesn't break the rules.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so what would you want?
Well, I would say to the photographer, do you mind if I tell you what was going through my mind on that particular day? And if the photographer said, yeah, I'm okay with that, and then I would expound on whatever my thought of the day was on that day.
So it would be dependent. It wouldn't be a message like a general message. It would be.
I wouldn't want a statement that summarized my life. I would want a statement that summarized that day.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's interesting. But then it would. People probably would. Analyze that and say, "Oh, that's who he is."
You can't stop that.
No,
you can't
you
stop
can't.
people from interpreting.
No, you can't.
David Lynch died. He was a filmmaker, and they're doing all these obituaries, you know, on the news. And one of the obituaries said, "A director who would never ever tell you what his movies were about." Now, and I thought, is that a good thing? I mean, why doesn't he obviously has an interpretation, or he wouldn't have made the movie that way. But why is he not sharing it?
Well, either he doesn't want to reveal that and he wants people to interpret it for themselves, which is probably what he's always said, or he has some emotional dysfunction and he's saying something he doesn't want people to know.
In one of the many documentaries that Orson Welles did, and often in these documentaries, other people will come on and give their stories of working with Orson Welles.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is an actor said, I was shooting a scene with him where in this scene we had to cross the street.
Yeah.
And have you ever noticed sometimes a crossing guard will actually have a movable stop sign, put it in the middle of the street?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what this was like. So the crossing guard is signaling for them to cross. And when they go past the stop sign, and then that's the end of the scene. And then Orson Welles said, hold on, let's shoot this thing again. Give me that screwdriver. He goes, he unscrews the stop sign. He puts it upside down, and he screws it back. And okay, let's shoot the scene again. So the day is at the end of the shooting, and the actor says, why'd you put that stop sign upside down? And Orson Welles says, do you know how many people look for hidden meanings in my movies? I got to give them something to think about. Well, that could be David Lynch. He could be doing
Like a
that
Beatles
stuff.
record.
He could be doing that stuff because he doesn't know why. He just wants to be
He wants
different, you know?
Right. He wants to be enigmatic.
Which is why he doesn't have an interpretation to give you.
That's true. That's good. That's a good point. Yeah. You know, I mean, I remember seeing Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
It was, let me see, I just got back from New York. I was living in Lovejoy, and Gloria and I were watching the movie. It was probably 1988 or 89. And we were watching it. We had probably a VHS tape.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we finished watching the movie, we were basically hanging on to each other. Like, what the hell was that? I'll never forget that because we really we weren't even aware we were hanging on to each other until the movie was over. But it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite David Lynch movie?
I thought Blue Velvet was interesting. I was talking to our friend Terry Klein about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, David Lynch is a director. He's like this French filmmaker, Leo Carax. Great stylist.
Yeah.
Zero substance.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see like Holy Motors, which Leo Carax did, you go, wow, what an interesting scene. Wow, what an interesting. Then when the movie's all over, you go, I don't think that movie was about anything.
Yeah.
And sort of like Mulholland Drive is sort of like that.
That's one of Greg's favorite movies.
Interesting scene, but it doesn't really mean anything. You know?
Yeah, he loves that movie. Yeah, that's one of his favorites. I saw it, but I don't remember it. So that's the one where the neighbors are suspicious of each other. There's something going on, or something's a spy or something like that.
Well, Vanessa, do you know that movie, Mulholland Drive?
Never saw it.
Yeah, Greg loves it. I just don't remember what it's about. But
I do know Eraserhead.
I don't think I ever saw that one.
Oh, that one's the best one.
Yeah, you'd remember it.
Yeah, I don't think I saw it. I think it was made during the time when I think my daughter was really young. What year was that?
In the 70s, I think 78,
Yeah.
right, Vanessa?
So Renee was
That's right.
Renee was only 2 or something, and I wasn't going to a lot of movies.
The main actor in that film has this worried look on his face throughout the whole movie. Do you remember that, Vanessa?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the guy with the hair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I see people that look like that a lot, and I'll always say to Greg, that looks like Eraserhead. But I don't think I've
What,
seen
the
it.
worried look or the hair?
The hair, mostly.
Oh.
Mostly the hair. Yeah, so...
Kramer from Seinfeld. Was Kramer from Seinfeld a ripoff of Eraserhead?
Yeah, I don't know. It could be. So your favorite one is Eraserhead then, Vanessa, yeah. So we've paid a little tribute.
Probably the lowest budget too, probably.
The first one, wasn't it
It
his
had to be.
first?
Yeah.
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 Well,
Black and white too.
there's our little tribute to Lynch. So, okay, we've got 5 minutes left. Is there something you can squeeze into 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah. Okay. This is something Vanessa and I were discussing. Tom, I sent you in through Messenger a link to an animated GIF. It's the last thing there. So the Australian, they have like the French Open in tennis, the British Open, and then they have one in Australia. So in Australia, they're going through to get to the top two. So they're in the third from the top, and an American defeats the Australian. And since the crowd is all Australian, they start to boo.
Oh.
Right? So I sent this to Vanessa, and I said, look how the American responds to the booing crowd. And Tom can play it when he's ready.
Ready for the 80s.
See, she like taunts the crowd and blows them a kiss.
Well, how else are you supposed to respond?
Well, Vanessa said I would give them the finger.
Oh, well, she's obviously, she has self-confidence and she feels like, screw you. Without giving them the finger, she basically throwing that kiss said, screw you, people, I don't care.
What I loved about Vanessa's answer is there's different ways you can cope with an adversarial, in this case, group or person. See, one is to push back real hard, and the other way is almost like to make a joke out of
And
it.
I tend to make a joke out of it. I've had people like be really nasty to me or something, and I'd say, but I like you. And that sometimes they'll lighten up and sometimes they'll get even more angry.
Winston Churchill was at a dinner party, and he told an off-color joke. And the woman who was the hostess of the dinner party said, I can't see how your wife stands being married to you. You're very crude. You're lucky you're not married to me, because if you were married to me, I would put poison in your tea. So that's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
Now, how do you think Churchill responded?
I take my tea with lemon.
He said, well, if we were married, and you were my wife, I would gladly drink it. Now, is that humor, or is that him being just as aggressive?
It is a form of humor that is aggressive. It's an aggressive form of humor. He's dissing her, but it's funny. I mean, that there are a lot of examples of those kinds of responses. I would have to drink it. But yeah, he was known for being quick-witted, from what I understand.
Very true. The thing with he was friends with the famous playwright. Shaw. Yeah. They were good friends.
Okay.
And he said, and Shaw wrote him a telegram and said, it's the opening night of my new play next Monday. Here's 2 tickets, one for you. Bring a friend if you have one. And Churchill sent him a telegram in response. Can you possibly send me 2 tickets for the second night, not the first night? I have an engagement. So if please send it to me for the second night, if there is one.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I heard this Bertrand Russell, who I've been listening to a lot of lectures and things like that.
Yeah.
He had a lot of really bad things to say about Shaw. He really said he was Bertrand Russell had his ideas about women were very advanced. He treated women as equal. So we're running out of time. But he said Shaw just had disdain for women.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really. I mean, I'm learning a lot about the people of Bertrand Russell's time. Okay, we're running out of time, so thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Nessa. Thank you, Richard, for making this possible, and thank you, my son, for being here and taking care of us.